Hey guys, Ryan here, and I'm going to share my favorite Easter eggs and references from episode 5 of Preacher's final season. Bleak City turned out to be an episode full of reunions, but which one was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Warning, this video has a ton of spoilers, so make sure you're all caught up with the show and the comic books. Let's start with one of the biggest callbacks to the comics, the forbidden love between an archangel and a demon. From what we learned in the books, the seraphim was a loyal servant of God until he met a demon while patrolling the border between heaven and hell. These two fell in love, a forbidden love, and they had a child, Genesis. Now, this is right around the time that God fled heaven. The seraphim was put on trial and exiled, forced to live the rest of his life on Earth. He was found by the US Air Force and then handed over to the Grail, at which point he was imprisoned in Masada. If you remember back to season 1, Jesse was told a similar origin story from DeBlanc and Fior.
An angel and a demon fell in love.
Traitors. Strictly forbidden. I didn't care. Snuck off. Made a secret. Conjoined.
Disgusting.
By the way, I really miss those two, don't you? Now, we never get official confirmation that these two fighting lovers are the same pair responsible for Genesis, but it makes a lot of sense. I highly doubt that we will be introduced to yet another angel and demon with the same exact story.
Love of my life.
Another one of the long-awaited reunions in this episode was, of course, Jessie and Eugene. It's been quite a long time since they last saw each other. Jessie's long overdue apology was surely heartfelt, but as it turns out, not enough, as Eugene shoots him in the back by the episode's end. You really can't blame him though. Jessie sent him to hell, and he never tried to save him.
Go to hell, Eugene!
Now, this differs a bit in the comics. Eugene is also on the hunt for Jesse, but for much different reasons. He vows to track him down and kill him because he blames Jesse for his father's suicide. I won't spoil the graphic details here because it's one of the craziest moments in the books. Read up. What's also different here is that Eugene doesn't pull the trigger in the books. He even had Jesse at gunpoint and everyone pretty much laughed at him. Humiliated once again, poor Eugene couldn't even pull the trigger. Instead, he joined Jesse's crew. Now, in the show, we saw a much more tragic turn of events. Honestly, this was one of the show's most shocking twists because it's completely out of character for Eugene. He's been a constant symbol of innocence in the show, a kind, good-hearted Christian that's always seen the best in people. And now we see him choose violence to solve his problems. Lucky for Jesse, it doesn't look to be fatal. Speaking of Jesse, a couple times in this episode, he was very nearly run over by another car. Now, we have to assume that none of these are coincidence. God is definitely swirling around some Diet Dr. Pepper as he plays with his toy cars and planes. It's important to acknowledge, as we have heard from Eugene himself, that all of this is part of God's plan.
God's plan. God's plan.
Using the power of Genesis isn't always all that great. Case in point, every time Jesse uses the word of God, the Saint of Killers can track him down. Also, as we've seen recently, whenever Jesse uses his powers, everyone around him dies. In Bleak City, it seems as if Jesse uses a bit more discretion when he's using his power. One example was to help Jackson stop stuttering.
Jackson.
You don't stutter.
And that's when we got this awesome frame that feels like it was pulled directly from the comic book. Unfortunately for poor Jackson, this ultimately leads to his death at the hands of the Saint. Again, Jesse leaves another dead body in his wake. Finally, let's talk about Featherstone. Because of some recent mistakes that she's made, and there are a lot, she offers up her own life. She gives Star, and Star only, the honors.
For these reasons, I'm ready to die.
I'm ready too.
If there's one thing that we know in the comic books, Featherstone is deeply in love with Star, who unfortunately doesn't feel the same about her. Now, we've seen a bit of this in the TV show, but not to the extent as we saw in the books. Now, however, Featherstone is on the run after Hoover 2 tried to execute her. It'll be interesting to see where she goes next. 2 things about her escape from the Grail headquarters. 1, how many base jumping suits does she have? And 2, isn't this the same exact shot they used from earlier in the season? That wraps up my favorite Easter eggs for episode 5. Let me know your favorite Easter eggs in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.